The 2014 Lok Sabha elections, which brought Modi-led government into power, was not merely a change in government. Modi government came to power with 31% votes. Recently, in a television debate after this Kerala and some other state elections, one BJP leader was asking me, have you got 51% vote in Kerala? So I had to remind him that how much vote share you got in 2014 elections. It was only 31%, less than one third. Anyway, this BJP came with their own majority, and that was not merely a change in government, it was a change in ideology, a sharp rightward shift in politics, and it was the beginning of a new attempt to transform the very idea of secular democratic India into a fascistic Hindu Rashtra. And this idea of secular democratic India emerged out of our freedom struggle. And this Sangh Parivar, which is not tradition or legacy of freedom struggle, now they are trying to change this idea of India, secular democratic India, into a theocratic state. And the last 2 years have seen, I think, three major tendencies. Three major tendencies are developed in the 2 years of Modi government. Number one is more aggressive pursuance of neoliberal policies, more aggressive than the previous UPA government. We have seen the introduction of land reforms, land acquisition bill in the interest of corporates, and labor law reforms, and opening up of various sectors of our economy to more and more FDI, more concessions to domestic capital. All these we have seen. I don't want to go into the details of that. The crux is that the neoliberal policies have become more aggressive under Modi regime. Number two is sharpening of communal polarization in our country. We have seen inflammatory statements made by his cabinet colleagues, ministers in Modi government, and dozens of BJP MPs have been making such statements almost each and every day. And we have seen increase in communal clashes and communal incidents. We have seen how voices of dissent have been silenced. So these are all signs of growing communal polarization in the 2 years. Number three is growing authoritarianism under Modi government. We once heard from the finance minister how inconvenient is this Rajya Sabha is, because the government has no majority in Rajya Sabha, so they are unable to get some of the crucial bills in Rajya Sabha. So Finance Minister Arun Jaitley started a debate whether the Rajya Sabha is relevant or not. So that is a level of authoritarian tendencies under this Modi government, and how we have seen how elected governments have been toppled by this government or the ruling party, and how the parliament has been bypassed on various occasions, and even the contempt for parliament showed by the Prime Minister, though he entered the parliament when created a dramatic scene the very first day when he entered the parliament. But subsequently, what we saw was he was not at all willing to attend Parliament. And most of the occasions he was on tour when Parliament was in session. That's why one of the MPs in Parliament in Lok Sabha, I remember, one MP stood up and said, we should issue a parliamentary pass to our Prime Minister to allow him to visit our Parliament. So, all this shows the growing authoritarianism and how more powers were concentrated in PMO. So, these are all indications of growing authoritarianism under Modi government. And outside, the so-called fringe elements, they were attacking, they were unleashing violence against all voices of dissent, and that we saw how intellectuals were targeted, how writers, artists were targeted by these so-called fringe elements. Now many people say that the fringe has become the mainstream. So this attack against intellectuals, attack against institutions, right from the Parliament to various other institutions, how this Right to Information Act was weakened and diluted. So all these things are indicating growing authoritarianism under Modi government. Of course, there was growing anger and discontent against the policies, especially economic policies of this government. The economic policies, neoliberal policies, have resulted in worsening the miseries of people. Our agricultural growth has come down, manufacturing has performed badly, exports continue to decline, and rupee is at its lowest. So all these are unemployment, mainly speaking from the viewpoint of youth. Modi and BJP had generated a lot of hopes at the time of 2014 elections, and they were able to get support from youth in a much bigger way. And in the last 2 years, what has happened in the employment front? This Indian Labour Bureau's data has come in 2015. New entrants into labour market was 1.35 crore, and employment generated was only 1.35 lakhs. So demand was in crores and employment generated was in lakhs. Only 1% of the demand for employment was generated. So this is a reality. So this worsening misery of people of our country has resulted in widespread discontent and resentment. So this has naturally created resistance and struggle among the people. There are three categories of, there are three streams of resistance. Number one is resistance led by peasants and working class. As we have seen against this land acquisition bill, there was a broad unity among peasant organizations and various NGOs. And both inside the parliament and outside on the streets, the land acquisition bill was fought, to some extent successfully fought. The government had to withdraw it, at least temporarily. So that was the peasant agitation against land acquisition bill. There was also a broad trade union unity against aggressive pursuance of neoliberal policies. And we saw successful nationwide strikes, general strike called by these trade unions. And these are resistance led by class organizations, peasants and working class. Secondly, there was resistance led by intellectuals, artists, writers, students and youth, right from FTIA Pune to JNU and Jadavpur. Universities have become the centers of this resistance movement. And major issues raised in these resistance were the right to dissent, right to debate, gender justice, environmental issues, and of course the issues of caste oppression. All these major issues were raised in these resistance movements. And the importance of this, or the feature of this resistance or these movements, is broad unity displayed among sections of farmers, working class, and various other intellectuals, middle class. So there was broad unity against this sectarian and neoliberal politics of RSS and Sangh Parivar. Thirdly, of course, there was a right-wing and reactionary response to this growing discontent. I would like to draw your attention to the Jat agitation and this Patel agitation for reservation. These agitations were a right-wing reaction or response to the worsening economic condition under Modi government. Major demands in both of these agitations were reservation for Jats and Patels. And the real issues were undermined, or real issue, the attention was diverted from the real issues. What is the real issue? The real issue is that the size of the cake itself is getting reduced. And the demand for reservation is a demand for a larger piece of the cake. So how the neoliberal policies, economic policies of Modi government has worsened the conditions of people, especially the rural situation, is reflected in both these Patel and Jat agitations. And the political battles also we have seen. Even in Gujarat, in rural Gujarat, BJP lost in local body elections badly. In all those elections in the last 2 years, except where BJP directly fought with Congress, in all other states, they lost badly. We have the experience of experience of Bihar, then in Kerala, and in Delhi. All those states where BJP fought with some other force other than Congress, they lost. And BJP could win only in Haryana, Maharashtra, and Assam, where Congress was their main rival. This is mainly because, as far as economic policies are concerned, there is not much difference between Congress and BJP. Now, about the future of these struggles and the role of left. I think the future of these struggles is based on the left unity. Primarily, this is based on left unity. And secondly, the unity between all left democratic and secular forces. This will decide, this left unity and unity between left democratic and secular forces will decide the future course of this growing resistance against Modi government. Number two, I think convergence of struggles by peasants, workers, youth, students, and intellectuals is very important and crucial in deciding the future of this resistant movements against Modi government and Sangh Parivar. And finally, I think that these struggles should not confine merely in the sphere of politics. This should be a multidimensional struggle. This should be made much more broad-based, And this resistance has to be intensified at all levels, especially ideological, political, and cultural levels. So, with these words, I would like to conclude. Thank you.